This channel is proudly sponsored by Dead Tree Studios, the publishers and developers of Dames of Asstoria, a tabletop RPG where you play as monster girls, experiencing high adventure in a world that doesn't fully accept them. Please check out the links in the description and in the pinned comment. Hi, welcome to this part of my review featuring Daisy Chainsaw. If you haven't seen the other parts of my review, featuring this savage and bloody Magical Girl tabletop RPG, please check out the playlist in the description below. This time we are going to talk about the rest of the book, and I'm going to give you my final thoughts on this tabletop RPG. We begin with abilities and spells. Abilities and spells cost one action to use, unless otherwise noted or labeled passive. Abilities may include making an attack or a maneuver as part of their effects. Whenever a main character casts a spell or uses an ability, they accumulate burnout points. We will talk about those in a few moments. It's important to note that spells and abilities have a type, such as harm, defense, familiar, etc., which may synergize with other effects. You have all of the details concerning the range, the duration, the bursts, the lines, the cones when it comes to areas of effect. Then we have saving throws. When a main character or boss is at risk of an affliction, they make a saving throw. You roll power and count hits equal to or below focus. If the resulting hits equal to or exceed the amount of successful hits that caused the affliction or effect is prevented. If an affliction was not the result of a roll, save against the power level of the affliction's source. Then we have details on the harm pool. The harm pool measures a main character's capability for getting hurt before they are killed. Every main character has a harm pool equal to 3 times their heart. Main characters may opt to avoid a single killing blow per episode with a permanent scar. If they do, they immediately push their limits. We will talk about that in a few moments. And suffer no harm from the enemy action. This scar is forever visible when you are transformed, but may or may not be visible when you are mundane. Once you surpass your harm pool, you are knocked out. Enemies tend to ignore knocked out main characters, but they must be tended to with the assist maneuver within 3 turns or they die. Assisted allies are still unconscious but recover to 1 HP when the encounter ends. When it comes to the burnout pool, this measures the team's mixture of stress, exertion, and the exhaustive nature of magic. Burnout points accumulate as main characters cast spells or harm abilities at a value equal to the tier of the spell or ability used. Higher power levels means the team can accrue more and more burnout before they begin to feel the effects. The burnout pool is a soft cap. Main characters may continue to use spells and harm abilities over this cap, but the higher it goes, the higher the chance of failure. When a main character uses a spell or ability, you roll 1d6, adding 1 to the total for each point exceeding the team's burnout pool. If the total is 6 or higher, the main character's action fails and they suffer 1 harm. When it comes to pushing your limits, sometimes your best just isn't enough. When that happens and you are facing down a horde of enemies, your power, magic, and adrenaline mix together into something more potent. Pushing your limits does not require an action, but must be done during your turn and requires at least 2 of the following to be true. Outnumbered. Either there are far more enemies than your team, or you're the last one standing against a boss. There is also almost dead. Either from a single massive hit or the attacks of many, you are down to 1 HP. There is also burnout. Your team is at least 1 point over their burnout pool. This effect lasts 3 turns. At the start of your turn, you may forgo one of the beneficial effects in order to extend the duration by 1 turn. These beneficial effects are harder to hit. Attacks against you suffer -2 primary. There is hit harder. Your attacks gain +2 primary, and second wind. Your abilities do not accumulate burnout points, and you don't have to roll for failure when surpassing the burnout pool. Then we have the Game Master or Disaster Master section, with tips and advice on how to create and run a season or a campaign. You also have details on creating antagonists and role-playing those antagonists as well. There are even example antagonists. You have tips and advice on how to handle the nuances of every aspect of this tabletop RPG, including some fighting strategies. When it comes to building enemies, they are quite simple. You could create them on the fly if necessary, but of course, it's always better to prepare beforehand. You have traits such as Armored. The enemy ignores 1 harm per attack made against them, but they always have an unarmored weak spot. There is also Big. Half speed, double HP, and melee attacks have a range of 10 feet. There is also Strong. The enemy can lift or throw objects as big or heavy as a car. That way you can create cannon fodder enemies, but also some boss enemies. In fact, there are also evil magical girls. These are referred to as witches in this tabletop RPG. These are the most powerful enemies that a magical girl will probably face. Apart from the example major antagonists, there are also some normal enemies, a mini bestiary of sorts, in this section. And this concludes this review. What do I think of Daisy Chainsaw? This tabletop RPG is excellent. I would say perfect in every way when it comes to this savage and bloody magical girl style. The system is simple to master, easy to understand, but there are also nuances to add depth to combat, and of course, if you want to handle investigations, that as well. The traits are quite generic, and there is an obvious emphasis on battle. But you can also roleplay any situation in the lives of these magical girls. I think there are a lot of fun aspects to this tabletop RPG. Choosing your weapons, determining your mascot, facing off against all of those crazy magical girl opponents. So, my highest recommendation, definitely get Daisy Chainsaw. Especially if you are a fan of Spec Ops Magical Girl Asuka. Thank you for watching this review. Don't forget to leave a like, a comment, and subscribe. And thank you so much to those of you that are going the extra mile to support the channel. If anyone else wishes to further support the channel through PayPal or DriveThruRPG, the information will be in the description and in the pinned comment. This has been Abraham El Jaguar, a professional game master. If you want me to run a game for you, please check out the pinned comment as well. And remember, in tabletop RPGs, it's not about what you want your characters to do, it's about what your characters are doing. Once again, thank you and see you later.